Welcome, Challenge and Choose Nation. This is Chad Butler, your host. We'd like to welcome you out to today's radio program. I've been doing a lot of trainings lately, and I keep getting questions around how to become effective on the phone. So all of you sales folks out there, this program is for you. I spent 17 years as a financial planner. I saw a lot of good phoners. I heard a lot of good phoners, and I was always considered one of the best phoners. As a matter of fact, I trained countless people over the years on how to use the phone effectively. So I saw a lot of people come and go. I saw a lot of do's and a lot of don'ts, but I'd like to kind of talk to you about how to find that power within. When I first started as a financial planner, I was just finishing up my degree in psychology in southern Utah. And I started with an insurance company as an intern. While I was finishing up my degree, my emphasis with psychology was on human behavior. I always had an enormous curiosity with people, with why do some people get better results than others? And as a child, I was always really fascinated with people in sports. Why were some people better than others who appeared to have the same talent? And this translated into school, which translated into my sales career. So when I was first starting out, I still had a year's left of classes. Most of those classes were around human behavior. One class specifically, we were asked to train a rat. And the professor that I had for this particular course would start every lecture with writing on the chalkboard, why do we do the things we do? And every day he rewrote this, and it took me about half the semester before I really recognized what that question meant. Why do we do the things that we do in life? Why am I getting the results I'm getting? Why do those around me get their results? So part of the course was learning about Pavlov and Pavlov's dog. Conditioned stimulus, unconditioned stimulus, conditioned responses, unconditioned responses, a lot of real boring stuff. But when you really understand it and apply it, it's so applicable to so many areas of our life. What Pavlov discovered is when he introduced meat to his dog, he salivated. When he brought in a different type of stimulus, which in his experiment was the horn or a buzzer, he eventually trained the dog to salivate at the sound of the bell and the visual of the light. So, or the sound of the buzzer, actually. So he trained the dog to salivate at the sight of meat, at the sound of the bell, and the vision of the light. Where Pavlov really learned his theory, where conditional learning came about, is when he discovered that when his assistant walked into the lab, the dogs salivated. It was a stimulus which was not a part of the experiment. Excuse me. It was what they call a neutral stimulus. So this was groundbreaking information. So throughout this course, I was able to train my rat, the ugliest thing you've ever seen. I trained this thing to do 3 tricks, just like Pavlov did with his dog. So I learned about how behaviors are adapted, how they're learned, and how in life, that's why we are doing the things we do, because it's what we've learned to do, which is also referred to as we're being conditioned to believe and act in certain ways. So as I was wrapping up this class, I got an A. I was proud of myself. I trained an ordinary rat to do 3 tricks. It took me forever to do. And not a lot of the students were able to train their rats. It was, as it turns out, a difficult thing. So now all of a sudden, I'm starting my new career as a financial planner, and I desperately wanted to be successful. So I thought to myself, I just trained this rat who I referred to as Cowboy. Cowboy and me spent hours and hours in the lab in a Skinner box. So I thought to myself, what if I took this insurance world and applied it as a rat in the Skinner box? Now I'm the rat. How can I observe and learn from the other rats on what they've already learned? When I got into the industry, I started interviewing everyone I could find that had succeeded. My parameters were anyone over 5 years in the business that was producing, at a certain level, around 250,000 of premium or higher consistently. And I met all realms of people. Ages were different, genders, time in the business, levels of success, the focus of the products that they used. Everything was different. And what I kind of came to the conclusion of is that nothing was the same. There were a few commonalities, things like, you got to work hard, you got to show up every day, practice what you preach. There were a lot of the common themes that you would hear from successful people. But when I asked them the personal questions like, what do you attribute your success to? What's the one or two things that you would, tell a mentor to put all of their focus on? What are the emphasis in your practice? Everybody was different. What do you attribute your success to? Everybody was a little bit different. So that frustrated me as a young agent, because when I came into the business, there were about 150 of us that were kind of between those ages of brand new interns to the 4-year mark. And when I attended these meetings, everybody were looking for the magic beans, the magic insurance beans of success. What's the right phoning language, right? What's the right closing language? What's the right language to get appointments, so forth and so on. And upon my interviews, which I did on my own, I realized that there wasn't magic. Everyone's magic was them. Why do we do the things we do? Every successful guy I met with, I began to recognize that they found their magic, their belief system, what they believed was possible within them. So I began to recognize, if I'm going to be successful at this business, I need to start finding my magic, what makes me tick. Well, the challenge was I had no life experience. I didn't know much about money, certainly didn't know a lot about investing it, and I didn't know a lot about insurance. So I had to learn the topics and then start applying these skills. I'm going to go to break here for a moment. When we come back, we're going to talk about how do we start putting our minds in a frame of mind to begin the phoning process. We'll be back here in a minute.
Live from the USA Network Radio Weather Center, I'm Ty Hunter. Your forecast for today showing signs of clear skies. Beautiful day ahead and a great opportunity to get out and enjoy it. Temperatures fall overnight tonight and another great start for your tomorrow. Live from the USA Network Radio Weather Center, I'm Ty Hunter.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Challenge and Choose Radio Network. I'm your host, Chad Butler. If you haven't been following me, I'd like you to log on to challengeandchoose.com. Again, that's challengeandchoose.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to have you join our movement. My goal at Challenge and Choose is to get to all the corners of the world, teaching people how to live their best life, how to find joy, how to find happiness, and accomplish everything that you want. I started off today's program talking about what's been in my life as of late, and salespeople are begging for the magic language for phoning, and so that's what we've been talking about today. I was kind of going back to my early days as a financial planner and just recalling how I came to the realizations that I used throughout my whole career. Learning about classical conditioning or human conditioning was one of the keys to the model that I've later developed to become the challenge and choose model. One of the first cogs was really understanding, why do we do the things that we do? I would attend both weekly and monthly meetings with other agents that had been in the business within their first 3 years. I mean, there was easily 150 or so people. So I saw all walks of life, and I saw how people were starting to become conditioned to their beliefs in their new career. So I imagined we were all in a Skinner box in a big experiment on how to phone. And I began to see how the different agents became paralyzed using the phone. So let's think about the experiment. If you were picking up a phone and 80-90% of the time something negative happens, you're going to start believing that the phone is negative. Just like I trained my rat to respond to a buzzer and go get food, respond to a light and do a little dance, I trained him over repetition to behave a certain way. I could see that everyone in this group, again 150, the majority of them feared the phone. That was fascinating to me. The phone is so hard. The business is so hard. Getting good at it's like near impossible. I heard so many belief systems around the phone. By far and away, more energy with the group that I started with had negative energy around the phone. And I could see it. I could see how the conditioning around the repetition day after day of being required to do up to 50 phone calls a day. Hey, if you want to succeed, new agent, you have to do 50 phone calls a day because it takes that many to potentially get your 5 appointments or, 10 appointments, whatever it is that your goal is. I began to see how people were getting burned out within 6 months and leaving. The phone eliminated 90% of the people. It wasn't anything else. It was the phone. I can't use the phone anymore. They became paralysis. So being brand new, I'm in my first few months, I began to recognize that the phone was going to had a large impact on whether or not I was going to be successful. I had already interviewed dozens and dozens of people and recognized there's nothing synonymous out there with success. It comes from within. Success is a frame of mind. So phoning has to be equally as true. The principles are synonymous across the board. So if I can apply this to phoning, I may be able to apply it to the other parts of my career and, Lord help me, have some success and actually succeed. After all, in the insurance business, we were taught over and over that 95% fail the first 4 years. 95%. Those were statistics I had a hard time living with. I'm entering into a career that I think looks fun. I think I could really be good at it. It had all of the parameters I wanted in a job, in a career, but 95% failure rate kind of woke me up a little bit. So I decided to sit down and come up with what are my beliefs around the phone. And I began to recognize that if I wanted to make a lot of money, what's that money going to do for me? It's going to give me trips. It's going to help me have things. It's going to give me safety, security, allow me to give my family the life that they want. So ultimately, I wanted to be successful, to live the life I want, and to provide my family with a beautiful, fun life, do fun things. In order to have that success, I was going to have to be good on the phone. The phone was the direct conduit to all of the things that I wanted in life. It was the direct conduit to joy, to happiness, to safety, to security. If I could get good on the phone, I'll have everything that I want. Like that's a different perspective. No one taught me that type of language. They just taught me it's going to be hard and you must do it. So most of the guys were going to their office with the idea of, I must do this or I fail. I must do this or I'm not going to have appointments. I must do this and that's the mindset that most of the colleagues I associated with went into their offices and shut those doors, or went to their cubicles, put on their headset and started phoning. I would go into it with the idea of the phone is my greatest ally. It's my greatest friend. Like, I've got to get good at it. I want to be good at it. So I changed the way I viewed phoning at the inception of my career. And I would write down little affirmations that, one day I'm going to train people on how to use the phone. One day people are going to pay me because I'm that good. I wanted to create these positive affirmations on what I wanted to accomplish by using the phone and think as big as I could, because 95% of people fail. I did not want to be part of that statistic. So I entered the business changing how I viewed it. I changed the experiment around, because with a little bit of knowledge, because people always say with hindsight, I would have done X, Y, and Z. Well, sometimes we can live with hindsight. With my knowledge, I could see how people became conditioned to believe that the phone was difficult, and I was able to overcome that right from the beginning. I flourished on the phone. When you flourish on the phone, it does something to your confidence. It allows you to get a much higher level of appointments. My ability to get appointments, my ability to get in front of people was unprecedented. Immediately, I was being asked to give, little, not necessarily trainings, but maybe more testimonials to my group on what am I doing to get so many appointments. Again, I'm in my first year, so they're impressed with it, and they're wanting me to teach the group, my client builder group, how am I doing it? Well, part of me, quite honestly, didn't know. Part of me tried to come up with different reasons, but I kept remembering how I changed my mindset. See, at the time, I didn't really view that as the key to the success. I thought I was developing different languages and so forth and so on. I later recognized it was a direct impact of my confidence and my belief in who I was and what I was out to do, which was the greatest phoner the company had ever seen. But came the first challenge. I had a ton of appointments, but what do I do in the appointments? I mean, I could get the appointments, but now what do I do with them? I would go to these appointments scared to death and not know what to say. So my confidence level in the beginning was I was paralyzed, knowing what to do, what questions to ask. Again, there was my first chink. Getting the appointments, I had no problem. Knowing what to do with the appointments became my first real eye-opener. So within 6 months, I began to recognize that, hey, I am now being conditioned to believe that meeting people on a first appointment is so scary that I don't necessarily want to go. I don't want to show up because they're going to ask me questions. I talked my way into an appointment. They don't even know me half the time in most cases. And now what am I going to do? I'm brand new. I'm acting brand new. I'm thinking like a brand new guy. And in most cases, I'm not getting a second appointment. Now, as good as I was on the phone, getting that second appointment is still a challenge if you did a poor job in the first meeting. Why would they want to see you again if you're doing a bad job or if you don't have the confidence? So I had to have another come to Jesus meeting with myself. What is my goal? What's my overall outcome? What am I trying to accomplish? And how am I viewing this? So again, I had to live with a little bit of hindsight. I had to have the belief first, then the results would come. An important concept that those of you who are a part of the Challenge and Choose Nation understand is that our mindsets or our beliefs, we'll use those terms kind of synonymously, lead to our behaviors, and our behaviors lead us to our results. So by believing that I was the best phoner in the beginning became my mindset. My actions were confidence on the phone. It didn't necessarily mean what did I say, because people would ask me time and time again, what are you saying? And when I would say it, just like I said on the phone, they would say, brilliant. That's brilliant. And they would write it down verbatim. And then another group would ask me, and I would say something completely different, but with the same confidence. And they would say, that's brilliant, Butler. That's brilliant. And they would write it down verbatim. And then they would go off to their cubicles or offices and use this newfound golden language. But every time I told someone, I told them something different. Similar, very similar, but there were variations that were very, very different. And I became fascinated with the idea that people would just take what I said because of their confidence in me. Chad's having success, so whatever he's doing is going to work for me. It began to sink in more and more. Why do we do the things we do? Some people actually came back and said, that language worked. Other people came back to me and said, hey, that language worked. And I'd always say, what language? You remember what you taught me? I'm like, what was that? And I didn't ever say it, but it's like, I don't even use that anymore. But they believed it because of the way I said it, and it translated to confidence for them, and it worked at some level. The problem is that language eventually might not work. You still have to find your own magic within. Living off of the way other people do things won't translate into lasting change type of habits. It can give you positive change and maybe you tweak it your own way. But what I like to teach people is I can give you some fish to eat, or we can teach you how to fish. I'm a big fly fisherman, and I would rather teach you about insects, the cycles of insects. Why do fish eat at the bottom of the river versus the top of the river? I'd love to teach you why do they sit in calmer waters or versus the current of waters. If we can teach you where the fish are, what their behaviors are, why are they eating that type of bug, you're going to be a good fly fisherman for life. And that's the idea here with business, is teaching the psychology of people. Why do trout do what they do? They don't have the cognitive skill sets that we do. They're very predictable. But as it turns out, human behavior is also very predictable. And when we understand why we do the things that we do, it gives us greater clarity and greater ability to make better choices on our future results. If we understand why we're getting the results we're getting in life, whether that be in sales using that damn phone, or being in front of a new customer, or being a manager teaching new reps or sales forces, why are my reps getting the results they're getting? If I'm fishing, why is the fishing poor right now? If I have a woolly bugger on and I cast it 50 times and get no fish, am I going to cast it a 51st time? Am I going to cast it a 53rd time, a 100th time? When am I going to recognize that the results I'm getting might not be working? Maybe I should do something different. Understand why I'm getting the results I'm getting. Obviously, the whole definition of insanity is doing the same thing, trying to get different results. See, we all understand that, but then we turn around and each one of us are getting into these patterns where we keep getting the same results because fear stands in our path more times than not. On the phone, you can go to a conference, learn about being a good phoner. I could give you a workshop. You can go back on Monday, be fired up. I loved what he had to say to me. But within a week, you're right back to the same results. Why? We got to get to the root of the problems and understand, why are we doing the things that we do? You want better results in life? You want better sales numbers? Do you want better phoning numbers? Do you want more success closing bigger deals? Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, let's understand why you're doing what you're doing. Let's teach you how to become fishers of men, or fishers of money, fishers of success in whatever you're trying to accomplish. I do trainings over and over with C-level people, with managers that are managing salespeople, so that they can understand the psychology of why people are getting the results. And as a manager, you have such a direct impact on them. If nothing else, understanding why they're getting the results they're getting and understanding how to approach that oftentimes is not giving them another book on closing. I'll never forget my first year in the business. There was a guy that came in. He was a sharp dresser. He spoke extremely well. He was the hardest working guy there. He consistently had 40 appointments scheduled ahead. He didn't waste 1 minute going from his office to his car talking to other people. When he was at his office, head was down. Nothing distracted him from his goal, and he always had more appointments than anyone that I've ever known, even to this date. He would schedule these appointments, but every month when we reported our conclusions to all of this hard work, our results, he was typically middle of the road and oftentimes below the mean, below the median of success. Second year, same thing. We're in the same study group, same client builder group. Best activity I've ever seen, no results. He starts coming to me. I've got not necessarily half the work, half the appointments, but not near as many as he was having. But I was leading the group in sales. And I would ask him, what are you shooting for? What is it that you're after? And he had been taught to stay active. You'll have success if you have 20 to 40 appointments. His goal was appointments. His results were appointments. I learned early on, you get what you put your mind to. If you want to be a good phoner, that's exactly what I was good at, the phone. I was terrible in the first appointments in the beginning. I was terrible at getting the close. So I learned, okay, I believe I'm good on the phone. Now, how am I going to prepare myself to get the deals done? Within 18 months, I learned to recognize that if I want success, I've got to change my mindset, just like I did with that phone. It's what's going to get me my results. It's going to lead me to the promised land and give me the ultimate security, joy, happiness, this lifestyle that I had believed I was capable of having. I learned that we have to put our frame of mind in what we're ultimately after. The rest takes care of itself. It's having the belief in who we are and what we're doing that gives us the results. That's why as a sales manager, by understanding the challenge and choose system and understanding why we do the things we do, it gives us a greater ability as a leader, as a mentor, to help those that we're responsible for, that we're being paid to help. If you're part of the distribution system of a business, you're the sales guy, and your success is predicated on closing deals, how are we approaching closing deals? Because I can teach you how to get appointments. I can teach you how to phone, but that might be all you get. Stay tuned with the Challenge and Choose system. You can find me at challengeandchoose.com. Again, that's challengeandchoose.com. Let's meet. Let's talk. I'd love to hear what your woes are. I'd love to hear what's stopping you potentially from getting all of the successes that you deserve and are striving for. We'd love to hear from you. Tweet us, tweet out to us, give us a call, send us an email. We'd love to have you join the Challenge and Choose Nation. Again, this is Chad Butler signing off. Thanks for listening.